I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and today I'm speaking with Nick Kroll, the creator, executive producer, and star of the Netflix animated show Big Mouth. The first question I wanted to ask has to do with this year's Emmy race. The nominating ballots were released last week, and Big Mouth submitted the new me for the animated program race. And I'm wondering, how did you guys decide to submit that episode for this year's Emmys?
Writing the first episode of a season can oftentimes be the hardest because you have to reset the audience, like of what had happened in the previous season, and then also set up the some themes and things that are going to happen in the new season. And I think we finally felt like for season 4 that this episode actually like worked on all the levels that we wanted it to work on, which is not always the case for the first episode for a season. We also went to camp, and obviously introduced Seth Rogen's character as like Nick's camp best friend, was a pleasure obviously to play with, and John Oliver guest stars in, as well as this character Natalie, voiced by Josie Toda, who is a girl who had just transitioned. She had been at the camp the previous season as Nate, and then had transitioned to Natalie. And Jesse joins her in the girls' bunk and is getting all this stuff about being at camp and changing, and it just felt like it was covering a lot of it was covering new ground for us, but it was also covering some real Big Mouth stuff that felt both exactly in the realm of what we've come to be known for, but also new subject matter, new kinds of jokes, as well as introducing Tito the Anxiety Mosquito, voiced by Maria Bamford, which then becomes the theme for the entire season. So I think we just felt like it covered a lot of different stuff, and we decided we were struggling with the opening of the show for a long time, and then my partners Mark, Jen, and Andrew had the idea of making the song kind of the recap for where everything had been, and that was a fun way to kind of get everything moving.
One of the things that makes Big Mouth work so well is the way that it integrates topical issues of our culture with the lives of these almost teenagers. And I think a great example you just named was the introduction of a trans young character, Natalie, wonderfully voiced by Jessie Toda. And I was curious, has there ever been an issue or a premise that you and Andrew wanted to explore, but weren't able to make it work within the framework of the series for one reason or another?
I mean, there are definitely storylines that we want to, or characters that we want to touch on, and it really becomes about when do you bring them in, like, and we've learned lessons from trying to bring in, like, oh, we want to do this storyline, we didn't necessarily create enough of a backstory for that character. That character only served the idea of being like like covering a storyline, and so we try not to do that. So there's storylines that we have that we're like, oh, we want to do this character, but you know what, it doesn't, we haven't earned it. I think with bringing in Josie to voice Natalie, we'd been interested in doing a story about a trans kid, and we spoke to a bunch of kids who had transitioned or were in the process of transitioning to get a better sense from them of what their experience was like. And the episode is written by Andrew Goldberg, but story by Andrew and Patty Harrison, who's an incredibly funny and wildly talented writer and performer. And so our goal was to tell a story that revolved around a trans kid, but that wasn't just entirely just about being trans. It was about much more creating a well-rounded character, which is always our goal. We don't always succeed perfectly in, which is, I think so many shows, different groups of people hoping for representation want to be represented, but they don't want to be represented just as like here's this defining feature of me, and this is the only thing that I deal with, and which is not how people are. People are multidimensional, and so we felt like this was a good opportunity to do it at camp, and if where everything was going to be new. And yeah, so that I think that's sort of how we try to tackle different issues. Do we can one of our characters do that? That we've already established. If it's not, are we bringing a new character? Does that new character is that new character well rounded enough to warrant this, to tell a fully 360-degree story and point of view, and then we go from there.
So I thought one of the most interesting things about the fourth season was how much it focused. It seems like the primary focus were on Nick's problems, whereas previous seasons felt like they were more centered on Andrew and Jesse. Even though, I mean, Nick's problems were also there, but it really felt like the culmination was with everything with Nick's issues. And I was curious as to what led to that decision, but also what was it like going down that road with the character that was initially based on yourself at that age?
um I would, if you talk to any of our writers, season 4, which is the big theme, was anxiety. It was a hard season to write because to live in like a space of anxiety was for 10 episodes was kind of challenging. And Nick became, I think, because we chose Nick to be the basis for anxiety. He's the intro to it, just like Andrew was the intro to shame in season 2. You're really following his journey and arc through anxiety through the whole season. And to be honest, it was challenging for me because obviously Nick is a character that is based on me, but it's also its own thing, and it's an amalgamation of just pure fiction and also other writer stories and things like that. But then Nick's anxiety about like his self-worth and adequacy and inadequacy, and then eventually leading to the episode of Big Mouth 2052 in the future where it's about Nick Starr, this 40 something game show host comedian. Obviously is not me, but there are elements to it that are based on my fears and anxieties. And at the time it was about intimacy, and to be transparent, it was stuff that I was like feeling and thinking about and dealing with in my own personal life. And so and yet it was also it's fiction, so there are times where I would be working on something and be like, well, this is what's happening for me, and then I'd leave the room and the writers would keep writing while I was in a meeting, and then I'd come back in and they're like, well, we think that Nick Starr does this, and I'm like, but that's not me. And so there are all those elements, but also I think as a show we've been rewarded for being honest and vulnerable and forthright, and it was a good exercise in trying to do that, and trying to be honest about what anxiety is, for not only for me and my character, but for all of the characters on the show, and how that manifests. And not, if you can believe it, a bunch of the writers in our writers room suffer from anxiety, not uncommon for writers, but it manifests.
Writers with anxiety, I've never heard of such.
I know, it's crazy, but it was so interesting how it manifests differently for each person. What anxiety meant for each person was different, and we spent a lot of time talking to therapists and educators and all different types of people about anxiety and how people can deal with anxiety. And that's, we were talking to a therapist who deals with a lot of writers, ironically, and he talked about it really comes down to really using your breath and breathing and gratitude, which is then, as he was talking about that, I was like, oh, we should have the gratitude, which then led to me going out to Zach Galifianakis to be the gratitude, who he was very kind to do it. And posing, hopefully, if you're posing problems about things like anxiety, it like hopefully finding also some methods and solutions to deal with it.
One of the other great things about the show is the music to the show is absolutely incredible. I was curious as to what your favorite musical moment was of the fourth season, but also to take a bit more of a wider look. And what's your favorite musical number of the entire show so far?
Wow. Yeah, Mark Rivers, who does all the music for our show, is a composer and has been working. I've worked with him since Kroll show, and he's a really unbelievably talented guy. Um, I mean, it's probably not the best song to encapsulate this season, but I just like selfishly loved it. I think I might have pitched it in the Halloween episode. There's a song for Lola and Jay. It's like a Serge Gainsbourg song called Lola and Jay. And it's a skeleton who sings it, and it's sort of it's a Bonnie and Clyde parody, because Lola and Jay dress as Bonnie and Clyde for Halloween. So I love that song because I also just like loved Lola and Jay's relationship. Obviously, Jason Mantzoukas and I are very close, and the opportunity to improvise making out with him and having him pleasure me in was something very new for both of us. One of the songs that I really love is the song "Code Switching," that is from an episode where the kids go into the city, where Missy and Devon leave the group and go off into the city, and Devon sings the song about code switching, which was pitched by Jack Knight, one of our writers, and something that a bunch of our writers could identify with, which was code switching and how people change how they talk to depending on who they're talking to. And it's just a very fun song that also just gets into what it's like to be like, in the case of Devon, what it's like to be a young black man navigating day-to-day life in the city. And another song that I really love from the season is "I Used to Be Your Favorite," sung by Andrew Rannells. And it's a song, Andrew's character Matthew is gay, and he comes from his parents are pretty conservative, and so it's a song lamenting that his mom has now realized that he's queer, and he's lamenting how he used to be her favorite, and Andrew's voice is of course unbelievable, but it's a very beautiful song.
The show will be returning soon for its fifth season, and I was curious as to whether you could give us any insight as to what we might be looking forward to in terms of character arcs or maybe even guest stars.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm honestly, it's another season where we really, I think when we did the seasons on shame and anxiety, people seem to respond to that because it really gives the season some real shape, and something for a lot of our characters to function around. And so this is another season with a big themes to it, which is really exciting. So we will have a bunch of new characters coming in the sort of monster creature world. Many of those characters are then we used as a way to introduce them to then be part of the spinoff for human resources. And there will be more time spent where the kids might end up back in human resources for various reasons. I mean, we have insane guest stars. Unfortunately, I can't reveal any of them yet because we make those announcements like at very specific points. But I'm really excited for it. I think I hope I don't, you can, you can only hope that your show remains interesting to you and therefore the audience. And I can say, having written seasons 5 and 6, we still feel like we have really funny and fun and envelope pushing, big laughs, big feelings stories. There are some breakups. There are people people are going to get together. There's a lot of there's some more trips coming in. We've got some interesting sort of bottle episode one-off things. I think we keep trying to take. We've got a special episode that is we try a bunch of new stuff is what I will say. So different mediums, and breaking format in a lot of ways that I think it will be really very, very funny and just new. I think the goal for us is, the show is about puberty and adolescence and change, and we are doing our best to not stay stagnant and keep changing and keep evolving and let our kids continue to grow and evolve. Unlike most animated shows, we are continuing to push the kids forward in their lives, and hopefully for us to keep pushing forward creatively and otherwise. That's the goal.
One thing I wanted to ask is, how proud of yourselves were you that you helped Maya Rudolph win her first Emmy last year?
I mean, it's so crazy to think that Maya Rudolph had not yet won an Emmy. Like it's kind of unfathomable because she's literally the most talented person. It felt great. I mean, it's like Connie is like, I think like a really truly iconic, like all time animated character voice. And so to be a part of that I mean, it's all her, but we're so proud and that she's a part of our show and has been such an incredible, she's just such a talent, a force, and she couldn't be just a better team player with us and do all the crazy things we ask her to do. And she and my characters, Maury and Connie, will be part of the spinoff in Human Resources. So there will be more of Maya and Connie there, and I was so happy that she won the Emmy last year, and I'm also very proud of our marketing PR, our marketing team winning a well-deserved Emmy for the amazing work they do for Big Mouth on social media and stuff, and really funny but also really educational stuff. I was really psyched for all the team at Netflix who runs that stuff, and so it was great. It's thrilling. As you know, like these awards are like I make the show for people to hopefully enjoy, but being recognized is nice. And in the case of Maya and the other awards that we've received, it's really nice. It's like it feels like another element of being rewarded for the work you do.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best during this award season. And to all of our viewers, please make sure to like this video, smash that subscribe button, and go to goldderby.com and use the Gold Derby app to make your predictions and see if you can outsmart the top prognosticators in Hollywood. Thanks so much, Nick.
Thanks, Charlie.